Hi everyone, it's Tracy. Welcome to my channel. Today's video is a nice Sunday lunch or brunch item, and it's pizza. Everybody likes pizza. I made it with the cauliflower crust, and with prosciutto and burrata, and a special little add-on is basil leaves and basil oil. So this pizza takes 2 days. 2 days. I mean, you don't have to take the whole 2 days, but I'm taking the 2 days. So the day before, I prepped the basil oil and the tomato sauce. So you're gonna do this pizza in 2 steps. First steps, day 1. Final steps, day 2. So start the day before, make your basil oil, let that sit overnight, and then make your homemade tomato sauce for your pizza and let that sit overnight. And we're gonna go through those steps on how to do those 2 steps for your day 1 prep. The basil oil is very easy. Just remove your basil leaves from the stem, and then you're gonna blanch them in boiling salted water for approximately 30 seconds. Quickly remove, dump them in an ice bath, let them cool down, stir them around, and then wring out all the extra water with a paper towel. And then you're gonna take your blanched basil leaves and put them in a blender or food processor. And with every 2 cups of basil leaves, you want 1 cup of olive oil. Blend them together. And then for approximately 30 seconds, and you want something that looks like this. I took my basil oil and I put them in a jar to sit overnight to let the flavors absorb and for a more potent basil oil. There's also a cold press option that you can use by just simply putting the basil leaves in olive oil and letting it sit. But without the blanching, they will turn brown. So now that we're done with our basil oil, you just jar that and put it in the refrigerator and let it sit overnight. Then we're gonna get ready for our homemade tomato sauce, and we're just gonna need olive oil, apple cider vinegar, a can of crushed tomatoes, oregano, onion powder, black pepper, whole basil, garlic powder, red pepper flakes, and sea salt. I chopped fresh parsley instead of dried parsley, which I really like. I love fresh parsley. And we're just going to combine all that into our pan and let it simmer for approximately 10 to 15 minutes. So to the pan, I added a 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes. If you can, use a high quality brand. Then I added 2 tablespoons of olive oil and 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. Then I added basil, 2 tablespoons of basil, 1 tablespoon of oregano, 1 tablespoon of garlic powder, 1 tablespoon of onion powder, 1 tablespoon of thyme, and I also added about 3 to 4 tablespoons of fresh parsley to give the sauce some freshness, a tablespoon of salt, and a tablespoon of dried red peppers, and about a half a tablespoon of black pepper. And then you're just going to let that simmer for approximately 15 minutes. Oh, and don't forget the tomato paste. Let it simmer for 15 minutes, and then you're done. And once the sauce is done, just take a hand blender and just smooth it out a little bit. So after the sauce has cooled, place in a jar or a plastic container and keep it in the refrigerator I wouldn't keep it longer than a week. And with the 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes, I made 2 jars. After making the pizza, I had 1.5 jars remaining. So I will probably use the rest for zucchini noodles or do a lamb meatball dish or something, or even blend it out a little bit more, add some more things to it, make a nice tomato soup during the week. So many uses. So we've got our tomato sauce done, jarred, and that made actually 2 large jars of tomato sauce. So I can use some for the pizza and some later in the week. So we have that done. We have our basil oil done. That's jarred and that's in the refrigerator. So we let these both sit overnight and then they'll be ready for our pizza tomorrow. So it's Sunday. It's about 12:30. I'm a little tired. Stayed up really late last night. But anyway, but I was committed to doing this today, so I'm gonna do it. Have the basil oil ready, and I let this sit overnight so that the intensify the flavor. I don't know if you can see that, but I may run this through a sieve and strain out the particles so that we have a nice clear oil. I may not, or I may use it both ways. I'm not sure yet. Figure it out as we go. And I have my tomato sauce. So both of these set overnight, so their flavors should be really, really good now. The basil oil, we let this sit out so that it becomes room temperature before we use it. And then, in addition to the pizza, I'm also going to do a prep for this week. So I may end up doing 2 videos, separate them out so that it doesn't get confusing. So I'll do one with the pizza. I have all my instructions here. I write everything down. Yes, I still actually use pen and paper. I love pen and paper, but it kind of helps me keep track of what I'm doing. And I'm going to show you everything that I have and how we're going to organize and prep. So as I said, today I have some things planned. Some things I'm kind of just going off the cuff. So I like to organize everything so that I am ready to go and I have everything available that I need. I put all my little home chefy stuff here that I love. It's almost like shoes to me. So I have these little bottles. So I think what I'm going to do is with the basil oil, I'm going to make a clear oil and then I'm going to leave it as is for the rest of it. But with this, you have it and then you just seal it and you have it ready so that when you want a plate or something, you have it there. You just have it. These are my molds. I don't think I'm going to use those today, but this is my trusty knife, my zester. I got my jars because I am going to also prep cauliflower rice for the week. So I have all my jars ready to go because I have a lot of cauliflower. And then I have my notes for the pizza, as I said. And we have our basil oil, my tomato sauce ready to heat up and then put it on the pizza, or not heat up, but just put for the pizza. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this yet, but I need to use it before I have to throw it away. Parsley, all the cauliflower I have ready, my little tools. This goes over here actually. And cheesecloth to strain. I'm going to talk about this. Okay, so I actually like to buy seasonings in these packets because I can put them all, instead of having all these bottles, these are jars of seasonings because I could not find those particular ones that were already packaged, but I like to put them in this little trusty container so that I could just seal it up and that's it. One spot for all seasonings. But I think I'm going to transfer these into some small Ziploc bags so that it just, it gets rid of the clutter. So I have everything out that I think I might need today. My salt. For the pizza, I have the prosciutto, basil. I'm going to do something really fun with this that I found. Here's some mozzarella, some tomatoes. I'm going to roast these, slice them and roast them. And I'm not sure. This is just a week prep. Some red onion that I have. Maybe I'll use it. I'm not sure. But there you go. I have everything out that I'm going to use and prep for the week. Okay, so what are we doing today? We are doing a, let's see, pizza, cauliflower crust with prosciutto, burrata, I love this, and some mozzarella. We're gonna roast some tomatoes, just small tomatoes. I have some straining right now that I rinsed off. I'm gonna slice these up, roast them, put for the topping on the pizza. We have our tomato sauce that we made, and that will be in the video. The basil oil that we made. And then I have my basil leaves here that I can't wait till you see the fun trick I found what to do with these. I'll show you. And in a separate video, I'm gonna go over the cauliflower prep for the week. And that's it. So we'll get set on our pizza. Also in the cauliflower crust, I'm gonna add several seasonings, which just make a little mixture. So that will be in there. So that's it. So let's get started. So we got our tomatoes nice and roasted. So we're gonna let these cool down. Just gonna set them to the side. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a mixture of Italian seasonings together to use for our cauliflower crust. So for our pizza crust seasoning, I'm gonna take several different types of dried herbs, and but I added fresh parsley. I love fresh parsley. So I use fresh parsley, about 2 to 3 tablespoons. I use 2 tablespoons of oregano, 1 tablespoon of basil, 1 tablespoon of onion powder, 1 tablespoon of garlic powder, 1 tablespoon of thyme, 1 tablespoon of paprika, and a tablespoon of pepper, black pepper. And you can adjust the seasonings to what you like and what you prefer. If you prefer more garlic powder, anything you want. It's just a taste. So now we got all of our dried seasoning plus our fresh parsley all mixed together, and now we add it to our cauliflower base. So we're just gonna shape our pizza crust into a circle. I find pushing it from the center out is helpful. So we've got the cauliflower crusts in the oven baking at 450 degrees for 15 minutes. So we've got another couple of minutes left. And so that gives us time for me to show you my basil leaf trip. Well, not my basil leaf trick, but the little chefy trick I learned on YouTube this week. So I took a plate and wrapped it in saran wrap, so you have like a flat surface to begin with. And then you take your basil leaf, and then you make sure you can see this, dip it in canola oil, just lay it flat on the paper, on the plastic, I mean, and then you just do that for the rest of your basil leaves. So with all the remaining basil leaves, you just follow the same process. Dip it in the canola oil, lay it flat on the plastic wrap paper, and continue to rearrange until you got all your basil leaves covered. So you want to make sure all your basil leaves are flat, and then you're going to take another piece of plastic wrap, Lay it on top, careful not to move them around, and seal that down. Keep it, and this will help to keep all your basil leaves in place and flat. And then you poke up a few holes for venting, and then you put it in the microwave and microwave for approximately 3 minutes. So what you end up with are these fried basil leaves. I don't know if you can see that. I put it in there. And you can use this to top the pizza. They're not as flat as they should be, but this was my first time, so room for improvement. But they're so pretty. Look at that. So back to the basil oil. While we're waiting for the pizza, I decided I am going to strain part of this basil oil to make just a clear oil. So just take that. I'm going to take about half of this and let it strain for a bit. I may run it through again with a coffee filter. We'll see how that turns out. So our cauliflower pizza crust is ready. So we're going to add on our homemade tomato sauce to the crust, and then we're going to add our burrata, break it up, spread it around. We're going to bake in the oven for 450 degrees for approximately 6 minutes. So after the first 6 minutes, we're going to take our pizza out, and then we're going to add our roasted tomatoes and our prosciutto. Then we're going to bake this for another 6 minutes at 450 degrees. So there we have it, ready for the oven. So now we're going to go back to our basil oil. Just going to add this to this little plastic bottle. I could run it through a coffee strainer, but you have to let it sit for a little while, and I forgot to do it earlier. But this is fine. And there we go. It could be a little clearer if I had to run it through a coffee strainer. This is good for the pizza. So I have the basil oil filtering through a coffee filter, and then as you can see, the color is really green, but it comes out a lot clearer than the first pour I did. So that will sit and that will become clearer. For the pizza, it really wasn't necessary. But if you wanted to use this to finish off a dinner dish, this is what you would need to do. And to get that oil nice and clean and green. There's our pizza fresh out of the oven. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna let it cool off just a little bit, and then we will finish it off. So we had a little bit of the basil left over when we strained it from the oil, so I just kind of dabbed that around. No sense in wasting it. It tastes good. And then we're going to finish off our decoration. Our plating, as I guess you would say. I call it decoration because I like to decorate the food so it makes it look pretty. So we finish off with our remaining basil leaves to plate our pizza. And then we will finish it off with a little bit of the basil oil. And there you have it. A really nice prosciutto burrata pizza with basil leaves and basil oil. And there's our pizza. So a couple of extra steps than normal for pizza. The homemade tomato sauce, which most people do, but the basil leaves and the basil oil. The basil oil is something that even if you're not having the pizza, just try it and keep it in your refrigerator for up to a week and put it on anything. Put it on your pasta. It's really delicious. So just try it. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this pizza. It's worth making the tomato sauce ahead of time so it can sit overnight. And as you know, the flavors become a little bit more robust if you let something sit overnight. The basil oil adds just a nice little accent to the pizza. It's delicious. So I think this is great for a Sunday brunch meal or any time of the week. But you know, if you take the extra steps, it's definitely a plan. It's not something you would do at the last minute, but it's really, really good. And honestly, if I could be frank, I think it would be better with actual pizza crust. But we committed to the cauliflower, so that's it. Maybe I'll make another one with crust. So the stars of this pizza are the homemade tomato sauce and the basil oil and the basil leaves. I highly suggest you try this basil oil, even if it's just for everyday pasta or salad. Thank you so much. This pizza was really delicious. I hope you enjoyed the video, and please remember to hit like and subscribe and come back again. Have a good one.